Good afternoon. My name is Holly Murphy, and I want to go through my presentation for understanding an individual data score report for STAR reading assessment. This is project number 2 in my measurements class for the fall semester at JSU. So let's talk about Whitesboro Elementary School demographics. The student that I'm looking at is a student there, and he's also a special ed student, but I wanted to tell you a little bit about the school before we went any further. Whitesboro Elementary has 302 students. It goes through grades pre-K 4 through 6th grade. We have a special education pre-K unit there and goes all the way through 6th grade. At that point, then they go on to the middle school. There's about a 15-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio, and last year they were very excited to have earned an A on the 2019 Alabama State Department of Education report card. 51% of the students here receive free and reduced lunches, and the demographics break down to 96% white, 2.3% is 2 or more races, and 1.7% are Hispanic students. When we're looking at this assessment, we're going to look at the STAR Reading Enterprise. This is something that we use throughout Etowah County in all of our schools. It's required universally as a screener 3 times per year, beginning in August, and then again in January after Christmas, and then they do it again. The window opens up in April or May, somewhere in there before the end of the school year. It gives us an idea of where the progress is going and how the kids are measuring up. So let's talk about our student. His name is Thomas. His name has been changed, and he is a special education student in the 5th grade at Whitesboro. The purpose of this assessment for him is to monitor his reading progress throughout the year. Thomas is assessed bi-weekly on that basis by a special ed teacher, and this helps to monitor his progress. And this is also something that's indicated on his his individual education plan. Thomas has a chronic issue of absenteeism, and his teachers feel that this contributes to the lower scores that he receives. His last assessment date that we're going to look at was October the 21st of this year. When we're breaking this down and we're connecting it to the literature, one of the things I think is very important is that school administrators, we just need to know what the achievement scores look like. We need to review those scores to ensure that school has a successful school performance record. And to do this, in one article that I've read, Thornton, Peltier, and Perot of 2004 pointed out that when the lowest achieving students can be identified by content area, the school can specifically address the needs of those students. In other words, we have to really look at data analysis to know where the kids are, where they're starting, where they're going, and where we hope they're going to end up. So let's look at the data. When you see this report, this is a STAR Reading Enterprise report. You see the different bars across the top. The bars that look, can y'all see my cursor? Okay, I'm over on this end. If this were in color, I couldn't get a color report, but if it were, this would be green, which would mean he's doing really great. This is where he needs to be. Instead, this end is the red end, and he scored over here. His most recent test fell in the 354 scaled score range, and his projected, by the end of the school year, we'd like to see him be at 432, about this rate over here. His independent reading level is a 3.0, and for a 5th grade student, he's 2 grade levels behind. When we look at areas of strength and weakness, we can see on the other side of the STAR report that an area of strength would be considered the reading level of 51% right here. It's very hard to see. This is the area of reading and level of complexity that he can read. And then over here, we've got structure at 35. So this is an area of weakness for him. I know it's very small, but right down here, we see that it only took 26 minutes to take this test. So he might do better if he spent a little more time on that. And this was, of course, with accommodations to give him extra time. So let's celebrate the small stuff. Let's look at his high scoring point was 51%, which is right up there with our state standards as where he should be at this point in his reading career, his education. And when we look at our trend line, we see that it's moving upward, which is great. He started here. He scored once in this time when he's done biweekly, dropped a little bit, and then came back up, which is above that trend line. So that's great. The trend line's moving upward. Thomas has had lower scores, we've noticed, following times of absence. So we really need for him to get to be to school. And Thomas needs to continue to work with his special ed teacher to practice and continue that upward movement. So what are our next steps? Well, next we want to continue with resource and small group instruction. I think it would be important to train his parents on how to practice with him at home. Always encourage school attendance. You know, it's not going to do any good if they're not there. And provide daily practice activities for home for him, something simple that he can do. It's not going to take a lot of time, but just something that's going to be good activity, good practice for him to work with at home with his parents. And then teachers, special education and general education need to collaborate daily on instruction and practice and what's best for him. Does anybody have any questions? This was very fast. In reference, I'd just like to reference Thornton, Peltier, and Perot again for their article that helped with the planning of this PowerPoint and this presentation. Thank you for your time. Okay. Yay. Did I sound like a complete idiot?
No, I think it's still recording, Holly.
Oh, that's great. Okay.
It says in the recording.